вітати вас на нашому першому вебінарі. Сподіваюся, що мене добре видно і чутно. Вітаю усіх. Що ж, мене звати Дар'я Герасимова, я тренерка навчально-методичного центру Green Country, шкіл англійської мови Green Country та академії TalkEn.Cloud. І сьогодні я з вами проведу перший вебінар на тему Teaching Teens Beginners. Але перед тим, як ми почнемо вебінар, хотіла би трішечки розповісти про нашу онлайн-платформу TalkEn.Cloud, завдяки якій ми сьогодні тут зібралися. Тому зараз я швиденько розповім загальну інформацію щодо вебінару і платформи, а потім ми продовжимо з нашою темою. І зараз я представлю інформацію українською мовою, а вже безпосередньо вебінар буде англійською мовою. Тому давайте починати. Ще хотіла сказати, що сьогодні ми з вами спілкуємося через чат. Через чат. Чи добре мене чути? Так, буду бачити ваші повідомлення через чат. І буду вас залучати через чат, тому пишіть, будемо спілкуватися так. Добре, все, бачу, що все чудово чутно. Все супер. Тоді починаємо. І, як я вже сказала, трохи хочу розповісти вам про нашу онлайн-платформу TalkEn.Cloud і що це взагалі таке для тих, хто ще не знайомий з платформою TalkEn.Cloud. Це універсальний інструмент для викладачів англійської мови. Тут представлена бібліотека інтерактивних підручників. Можете знайти бібліотеку інтерактивних підручників, також систему менеджменту навчального процесу. І TalkEn.Cloud – це також академія розвитку мовних шкіл. І тепер трошечки детальніше про складові нашої онлайн-платформи, що ж в себе включають інтерактивні підручники на TalkEn.Cloud. Тож, в бібліотеці інтерактивних підручників ви зможете знайти більш ніж 50 інтерактивних цифрових підручників для рівнів від Pre-A1 до C1 для школярів та дорослих. Також є Teacher's Guide – це плани для викладачів для занять до кожного підручника. Також трекінг прогресу учнів у виконанні завдань у підручниках, тобто ви зможете відслідковувати прогрес ваших учнів. Систему тестів з автоматизованою перевіркою до кожного підручника, а також placement тест, а також бібліотеку інтерактивних воркшітів і конструктор інтерактивних воркшітів, які ви зможете створювати власноруч. Так, це про бібліотеку інтерактивних підручників, а тепер трошечки про систему менеджменту навчального процесу. Тож TalkEn.Cloud є дуже зручним інструментом, бо платформа включає в себе створення профілів учнів. Ви можете створити профіль ваших учнів, об'єднати їх у групи і призначити, наприклад, індивідуальні заняття. Також на платформі ви можете зробити генерацію розкладу уроків, прикріпити вступний тест з автоматизованим визначенням рівня англійської. Також платформа включає в себе органайзер розкладу роботи вчителя та електронний журнал. Також в цій платформі ви зможете побачити домашні завдання та надати зворотній зв'язок від вас, вашим учням. Також зможете швидко прикріпити лінк на онлайн-заняття, якщо ви проводите заняття онлайн, і побачити так само прогрес виконання завдань в інтерактивних підручниках. А також включена автоматизована перевірка тестів. Тож, трішки детальніше ви завжди можете ознайомитися на нашому сайті або в Інстаграмі, в наших соціальних мережах. Тож, це було трошечки про нашу онлайн-платформу. А зараз хотіла ще сказати, що після цього вебінару ви зможете отримати сертифікат проходження вебінару після виконання онлайн-тестування впродовж 24 годин після вебінару. Сертифікат є платним, і ви його зможете отримати, успішно виконавши тестування на 80 і більше процентів. Також хочу зазначити, що тестування прикріплюється в разі, якщо ви хочете отримати сертифікат, тестування прикріплюється впродовж 24 годин. Так, це, щоб ви знали, не одразу, а також впродовж 24 годин. Так, супер. Тоді будемо переключатися, будемо проходити до нашої теми. So now, guys, I'll switch to English, and we are ready to start talking about our topic today. And today we start with a really interesting topic to discuss. And we will speak with you about teens beginners and how to teach them. And also, I forgot to tell you that after the webinar, you will get the follow-up letter, follow-up message with the article that sums up all the information that I'll present you today in the webinar. So I suggest we start our webinar, and the first things that we are going to discuss today, we will start with talking about beginners, and we'll discuss who are they, who do we call beginners, and how to define their level. So according to the CEFR levels, the CEFR Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, there are several levels of English, starting from A1, finishing with C2. You can see the division of the levels at the picture. And according to this division, beginner learners are those at A1 level. Sometimes we can also say that there is a pre-A1 level. Yeah, some of the schools have this level as a beginner one, but we can also consider A1, and even sometimes the first steps of A2 level can be also considered as a beginner. So just a second. Yeah. So let's begin. Let's continue, sorry. Yeah, so what are these students like? How can we characterize these students? And I would like you to use your chat now. It's going to be the first question to you, please. And I would like you to type me just basic or general characteristics. What are the students like? Beginners. How do they look like? What are the typical characteristics? So can you please type in the chat, and I'll wait for a minute because I get your answers a bit later. So who do we call beginners? How can we characterize them? Okay, I can see shy, motivated, I guess less motivated, or a lot of motivation. Do they have a lot of motivation? They know basic words. They cannot speak at all. They are not brave enough to talk about themselves. Yeah. Okay, I can see that answers a lot of motivation. All right. Okay. Right. They start learning English and they can use just basic vocabulary. They can be very active and have willing to study. That's interesting, and yeah, correct. Have a goal to learn more. Grammar skills are low. Okay. Yes, so basically you are all right. And just to sum it up, I would like you to follow up with characteristics of low-level students, again, according to the CEFR. So we can describe an A1 level student as those who have little to no prior knowledge of the language. They can use and understand basic everyday expressions, yeah, like greetings, like asking for directions, introducing themselves. They can interact in a very limited way if the other person speaks slowly and clearly. Yeah, that's what you say. They know basic separate words. They can interact in a limited way, as I said, and they need support with vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation in most situations. So this description is usual for A1 level students, according to the CFR. But I have the next question, like if we are talking about the A1 level, beginners, starters, yes, today we are not talking about young learners, we are talking about teenagers. And the next question that I have is, do they have the same background knowledge? If we are speaking about teenagers, does it mean that they all come with no knowledge at all? Like, are they like new to language in general, or do they have any background knowledge? May they have any background knowledge? Can you type in the chat? Mm-hmm. They don't. Okay. They know something. TikTok helps a lot. Oh, I'll mention that actually. Okay, yeah, thank you so much for your answers. I can see them. So, yeah, here comes one more term that we should discuss with you. So, false beginners. So, who are they? So, we may actually have a true beginner, yeah, a true beginner who has zero knowledge of language. They may not even know the letters. They may not read. They can't read, and this is actually rare with a language as prevalent as English. So you are more likely to meet false beginners on your teaching journey. These learners, they have some knowledge of the language that they may have learned at school through social media. Yeah, the one that you mentioned in the chat. Games, films, you are right. And maybe with some self-study. Maybe they have read or have heard something, and that's why they have already got some knowledge of English. However, their knowledge is so limited that they still need to start from the very beginning to acquire a language in a proper way. So, as we have started talking about teenagers, yeah, it's time to speak about teens beginners and how are they special? What is special about them, and how is it going to be like how to work with teens beginners? And I'm going to give you some tips on working with teens beginners. Yeah. So teenagers are going through a lot of changes, physically, emotionally, and mentally, and all of that affects how they learn. So what makes teaching beginner level teens tricky? Uh, so actually they want to be independent, but at the same time, they care a lot about what their classmates think of them. They are starting to think in more complex ways, but their motivation and confidence can shift from one day to another. So you have texted me that they are motivated a lot, but I guess if you have ever worked with teenagers, you can see that at one day they can be very motivated to study, to learn. At one day they can be not motivated at all. So, also, teens don't usually respond well to strict authority. They do much better in a classroom where there is mutual respect. Yeah, so they respond well in class where the teacher is in a role of mentor or learning facilitator more than instructor or controller. And they like the way the teacher helps in works and communicates in a friendly way rather than a lecturer, right? So, some tips for working with teens beginners would be the following. Teenagers need to express their identity, even with basic English. Some simple projects about their interests, hobbies, about their preferences help them connect with the language personally. So to make the most of the learning aims and outcomes, try to incorporate the content that connects meaningfully to teenagers' real-world interest in your lessons. Try to connect it with their experiences, making the language learning process more personally relevant and motivating for them. Then the next one is technology is your friend. Actually, it works with all of the students nowadays, but teenagers, they are tech savvy. So they are all about social media, their phones, laptops. So most of the teenagers enjoy using applications, social media, and different online tasks. That's why creating some digital content is the best to work with teenagers as well as other students, but with teenagers, it's going to be really beneficial. The next one is grouping. Group work is more effective than individual if we are talking about teenagers because they learn better from peers than from teachers. Yeah, we discussed that they depend from their classmates' opinion, their classmates' thoughts. That's why working together reduces pressure, reduces stress for them, and because they can share their thoughts, their fears with someone who understands them the same way, yeah, their peers. So the next one is using mature materials. That is interesting because even though they are beginners, teens need content that respect their age. What do I mean here is we cannot show teenagers um, the a cartoon that is designed for young learners, right? Still, we can share some pictures, maybe some text, but still it would be interesting for them if you include some content that respects their age, even at basic level. And the last one is going to be this one. So celebrating their small achievements. Yeah, some teenagers can get frustrated when they can't express their thoughts in simple English. That's why you have to encourage and celebrate small achievements. And it helps them to stay motivated, to keep them motivated, and teenagers respond well to see the evidence of their work that their skills are improving. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to say about teenagers and beginners. Yeah, so we have identified with you some special features of teens beginners, and now we can move to some strategies, right? So we'll start with approaching teaching to teens beginners. And the thing that is really I have to say, yeah, that teenagers need clarity and structure to feel secure and purposeful in their learning. So make sure that you start with clear goals. Uh, why do we have to start with clear goals? And we usually have some goals or outcomes or aims in course books. Yes, they are created for us, but how is it? How does it work with teenagers, and how can we adapt it a bit? So some tips that I have prepared, they are the following. Use lesson objectives, read in a student-friendly language. So let's imagine that you have the topic about usual routine or likes and dislikes. So you may say to your learners, like, today we will learn how to talk about your hobbies or our hobbies, right? It's going to be a bit more student-friendly language rather than stating the usual topic of the lesson, right? So, one more tip for you is breaking down long-term goals into small, achievable steps. Again, remember, teenagers, they really need to see their achievements. And it's going to be much easier for them if they see the achievement of a small step rather than long-term goal. So as an example here, you can see the long-term goal is to talk about daily routines using present simple. Uh, and the short-term goal will be, say, what time you wake up, have breakfast, and go to school. So it seems like a task, yeah, but actually it's like a small achievable step for them that you may take out of the long-term goal. And one more tip for you is to share the goal at the start of the lesson and refer back to it during the class or during the reflection stage. So when you present, what are you going to do at the lesson with your students? Refer back to it, repeat it after you finish all the tasks so students see their results. Again, they need to see their results. Okay, and now when we set the goals, when the goals are set, beginners must build a foundation in core skills, right? The core skills of language speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So we should help them in this journey, and that's why we need to focus on the key skills with them. And some why do we have to focus on all of the skills at the same time? Why is it important? Yeah, so it is really important for students not to just memorize the words or grammar rules as we used to do it in old old times, I would say, yeah, because now most of the teachers are working on all of the skills at the same time. Uh, but again, not just to memorize some words or grammar rules. We need to know how to use, we need to teach our students how to use the language in real life situations. That's why I have some suggestions here, and they are about these key skills. So let me present it to you. So what we suggest doing is prioritizing oral communications early on. Working on receptive and productive skills is very important because we teach our students how to get the information in order to make it easier to produce the information later. Um, because in real world, yeah, it's something that we really do. So we listen and then we produce the language. That's why prioritizing these skills early on is really beneficial. The next one is about using theme-based learning to integrate vocabulary and grammar naturally. So actually, it's very simple because modern textbooks and course books are designed in such ways that you learn grammar and vocabulary based on some topics, for example, hobbies, films, books, and so on. So that's why learning vocabulary and grammar together um, based on some theme is better rather than isolation, rather than learning the vocabulary and then learning grammar. Yeah, that's why when we connect it all, it's going to be successful. Yeah, so the next one is ensuring that all activities are level appropriate and scaffolded. So about the second word, this word scaffolded, I will tell you a bit later, but what it means. So first of all, of course, we need to see to make sure that our tasks are level appropriate. It can't be of higher level than the students are, which is clear. Now, what about scaffolded tasks? Yeah, so we usually it's better to start with control task, then moving to guided tasks with a teacher help, and ending with freer production, freer practice or production tasks. Yeah. So, one more thing that I would like to mention. Yeah. So when we set the goals, when we while we build the core language skills, yeah, it's very important to take into consideration the next thing about tracking and reviewing progress. Why do we have to track and review progress? Actually, it works. We should do it at all the levels, but with beginners and especially teenagers, they really need to see progress to stay motivated and to feel a sense of achievement. Yeah, remember that they need this achievement, they need to see their progress, and that's why we need to help them to see their progress. How to do that? How to do that? Few strategies, like not a lot of strategies, but still, they are really useful and simple to incorporate in your lessons. Use can-do statements for self-assessment. For example, I can say my name and age, I can ask someone where they are from, and so on. These can-do statements, they can be based on the lesson topic, for example, or they can be based and they can be done in the end of the unit or even in the end of the term. It depends on how often would you like to track the progress, and how often would you like to see your students' achievements, to see their to have their self-assessment. Yeah, so it can be even done, as I said, in every lesson. For example, I can say two sentences in present simple, two positive sentences in present simple. I can name three types, three film genres, yeah, or three family members, for example. And this can do statements. They would really help you to see your students' progress, and they can also see their achievements. They will see that, yeah, I have learned it today. Yeah, so the next one is something similar that I have mentioned now. It's including short exit tickets or reflection questions after the lesson. So here is an example for you. Think about what you've learned in the lesson and say, again, as I said, three jobs of people you know. For example, it's a lesson about jobs. Yes, three jobs of people you know, the job that you want to have, the job you never want to have. This is going to be the exit ticket in the end of the lesson that students have to complete to finish the lesson. Also, some reflection questions can be in a way of just asking for their opinion. So what was the most interesting part of the lesson? Or what words do you remember from the lesson? What was the structure of this or that, I don't know, grammar structure, right? So such simple reflection question that make students think of what they have learned. The next one is using progress trackers for you as teachers. Charts, journals, folders, anything that helps you to track your students' progress. To notice some changes, yeah? Who is struggling, who is progressing quickly, and which skills need more practice across the class. So such trackers, they will help both you and your students to review the work that you have done. So that is going to be all about approaching to teaching students, teens beginners, yeah. And now we can talk a bit about some strategies and some tips how to work with beginners and especially teenagers, beginners, yeah. And the first thing that is really important to mention is helping your students understand you, yeah? So when they come to the classroom at the very beginning and we want them to learn English, it is pretty hard to make them understand English from the very first lesson. So how to do it, how to help your students understand you from the very first lesson. Let's see some tips and let's have a look. So how to help your students understand you. Here we can mention few strategies using L1, which is language 1, language grading, and anticipating and preparing for the lesson. So we'll start with using L1, yeah, which is, if we talk about communicative approach, we tend not to use language 1 at our English lessons. So to use or not to use, that is the question. Can we use language 1 at the lesson? Can we use Ukrainian at the lesson, in your opinion? So you may type in the chat just very quickly. Or is it going to be a problem? Mhm. So I can see no answers, but okay. Um, mhm. Yeah, for beginners, yes, in some cases. It's okay. Yeah. I can see your answers now when students have A1 or pre-A1. Oh, someone says no. All right, we will discuss yes or no. So actually using language 1, using the first language, with beginner groups can help to increase students' motivation sometimes and lower anxiety at the very beginning of the course. Of course, later we will reduce or use no language one at all. But at the beginning of the course, beginners need some time to adapt to English, and that's why we may use a language one sometimes. But when and in what cases can it be justified? Let's have a look. Let's discuss. So you I can see some answers in the chat, like for explaining grammar, for simple listening, especially when the students are stressed out. And that is right. So let's have a look in what cases can we use language one. So first of all, it's giving instructions. So when you see that it takes you a lot of time just to explain an activity and students still don't understand you, they don't know what to do, and you have already asked multiple ICQs, you have demonstrated, you have paraphrased, used simple language as possible, but they still do not understand you, then yeah, to save some time, you may use the first language, but to make it in a bit more useful way, you may use sandwiching technique. I believe that a lot of teachers know about this technique, but what do you do in this technique? You say something in English, then you say it in language one, for example, Ukrainian, and then you say it in English again. For example, you can see the example on my screen. And why is it good to use this technique? Actually, it can be used not only for instruction, but in any cases, I would say. Why is it good to use it? Because after you teach your students in such techniques, they should understand the component in English without sandwiching next time. So next time they will remember what is compare your answers. Yeah, so this technique requires practice, but be careful not to overuse it, yeah, not to use it too much. It can be used like in really tough times, I would say. So when it's really good to show something in Ukrainian and then continue it with English. Yeah, the next one. As we have already discussed about saving some time during the lesson, when some technical issue arises or there is a word that you cannot demonstrate or explain, or it takes you really much time to explain something, you may use a language one as well. Again, instead of doing a lot of long explanation in English and you see it is effortless, so they do not understand you again, it's really easier sometimes to give a translation or explain a grammar point if needed. Yeah, again, if needed, it can be done with beginners, with beginner levels. And one more important thing to discuss when the language one is not a problem, when it is when the students cannot express their needs or problems in English. If some serious situation emerges in classroom, you should help your students quickly, effectively. That's why we can use language one, yeah, Ukrainian. Yeah, but again, we can reduce using language one, and we can use it just in cases when we really need it. And how to help, how to use language one less, language grading will help you in that. So what is language grading? It's simplifying your language. If you were talking about, if we're talking about beginner levels, it's simplifying the language. Language grading can be also used if we're talking about high levels, yeah, then we adapt our language to higher levels. Language grading for beginners, yeah, it's simplifying our language so the students can understand us. And some tips for language grading, some principles of language grading. Use simple vocabulary and grammar. Remember that your explanation should be easier than the term. Don't use hard words that students do not know yet. Yeah, for example, coming to the class and asking how have you been doing today? Yeah, it's not a good example of language grading for beginners. The next one is about instructions. Yes, so when we are talking about giving instructions, we should keep them short and clear, understandable. They are not complex, they are not long. Yeah, that's all about language gradient. And the thing that we should mention is simplifying your language, but not your pronunciation. Yeah, do not pretend to simplify your pronunciation. It doesn't help, and it actually doesn't work. It makes it worse. So, what can we do as well? So, while if we simplify our language, we can demonstrate. Yeah. So, if we use simple language plus demonstrating, then it works the best. So, I will actually talk about it a bit later about using realia, using demonstration. Yeah. But how else we can help our students to understand? Demonstrate, use some realia, use your other students, ask them to show something, ask them to help each other, yeah, to explain. You may use also drawing, some Zoom annotations if we are talking about online lessons. Of course, book to demonstrate, and Google, why not? So if you would like to show a picture of, if you are learning what is a hedgehog and your students do not know what is it, just Google it and show the picture. Believe me, it will be much faster. So, what else? Yeah, about nonverbal communication. Of course, I forgot to mention it. Smile and wave, as we say. So, of course, nonverbal communication also helps. So, gesturing, miming, demonstrating, it really helps when you are talking to beginners. So, one more thing to mention is about preparation to the lesson. So, actually, we should prepare for every lesson with every level. But with beginners, there may be some problems that can be anticipated before the lesson. And some potential problems that we may anticipate are the following. For example, you may think about some vocabulary that can be misunderstood. For example, students are learning some words and they got confused by the flashcards. How would you explain the words? How would you say the difference? Yeah, it can be anticipated beforehand. Then you may also think about some blocking vocabulary that your students may face during listening or reading tasks. Some of the vocabulary that is not targeted but may be faced during listening or reading, as I mentioned, yeah, we call blocking vocabulary, and we can pre-teach it beforehand. We can prepare it and pre-teach it before receptive tasks. Then, lack of active vocabulary for production, right? So sometimes students may not have enough ideas or just really active vocabulary. So we may prepare some prompts, word banks for them to make it easier. Again, it's really better to do it beforehand because like if you would like to give some prompts, you can actually do it right away on the board, but if you do it beforehand, it's much easier for you as well. Then, some difficulties while presenting grammar. So you may think if the grammar may be complex, may be different, and what may be some possible problems with understanding the grammar. And you may prepare some solutions. In particular way, it's ICQs, and I'll mention them a bit later, and we will talk about them. And some complicated tasks with complex instructions. Again, one more tip for this problem I'll give you a bit later. One more time about preparing what you are going to say in advance. Something that you can prepare in advance, it's your instructions, some complicated instructions if needed, grammar terms, and try to ask yourself, do students really need them? Or you may explain it in another way. Some classroom management, functional language, and vocabulary to pre-teach, which I mentioned. Okay, and now move into practical tips. Yeah, I have already mentioned few things that I will say a bit later, and now we can move to it. So some practical tips that we may use during our lessons are so here are they: using visual aids and gestures, ICQs and CCQs, scaffolding, drilling, and I will also tell about teaching students how to learn independently. So now we'll start with using visuals and gestures. So I have already mentioned it while talking about language grading, yeah? And actually demonstrating, it's like the best thing that you can do, not to use the first language, not to use language one. Demonstrating and using visuals is the best thing. So, for example, if you're learning some vocabulary, flashcards or picture prompts are the best. For example, use some images for vocabulary, for storytelling, maybe some games. Uh, Using some pictures of food, furniture, family members, yeah? So you know that it helps the best to learn some basic vocabulary, some simple words. The next one, demonstrating and using some visual help while setting classroom routine, while managing the class is also important, and we can include it. Yeah, for example, using some symbols or using some classroom language poster. Yeah? For example, you can see here an example. Taking a picture of a notebook, it means take notes. A question mark means ask question. Yeah. Uh, and you may refer back to it, or you may use it in some tasks, yeah, to reduce the need for some long explanations. The next one, of course, facial expression, body language. Uh, it really helps when we teach some emotions or something that we can show with our body language. Miming, um, like sad, excited, tired, as you can see, students will understand it in a very fast way, and it actually it is fun. Yeah, it's fun and effective. It gives a bit of funny atmosphere to your lesson. One more thing that can be mentioned is really. Yeah, why not bringing some real items into class or showing at some real items in the class is also a good way of demonstrating. For example, when we are learning classroom objects, there is a plenty of things that you can show. If we are talking about furniture or other objects, yeah, something that we really can show in the classroom. Or you can bring something if you are talking maybe about food, you may bring some food, I don't know. But showing realia is good. And of course, miming and using total physical response while learning some actions is a good thing. Yeah, demonstrating some actions and asking your students to do the same, like jump, open, run, walk, and so on. And it can be used not only for actions that you do, but some actions that are done by other things, by transport and anything else. So this is about using visuals, yeah, and gestures. Now, the next thing is that I have already mentioned is ICQs and CCQs. So I believe that most of you know what is it. For those who still didn't hear about using ICQs and CCQs, they are instruction checking questions and concept checking questions. So let's see the difference between them and why is it good to use them and how to use them in a beneficial way. So we'll start with ICQs. And these are the questions teachers ask to check if students understand correctly how to do the task. Yeah, so teachers should ask these questions after the instruction, yeah, after giving instruction, but before students start doing the task. And that what helps you to check your students' understanding before doing the task, so you can move to a successful completion of the task. So some tips for you while giving ICQs. So first of all, I believe I should give an example. So what are ICQs? Some simple questions that you ask to your instruction. So you have given an instruction and you may ask, are you writing or speaking? Do you work alone or with your partner? How much time do you have? Yeah, but make sure that your ICQs are not too obvious. Avoid too obvious questions. Do not repeat, like it's really good not to repeat the instruction in the form of ICQ. While preparing ICQs, you may prepare them in advance, by the way. Please prepare not only questions, but also possible answers. It will help you to make sure that it's possible to give a short answer, and students will make it quicker to answer, yeah? And it is really important not to ask ICQs not to include in ICQ the information that you didn't mention in your instruction. If you didn't say it, so it means the student will not understand. So how do they know if they need to do that or not? So please keep them clear, keep them short. The ICQs can be in form of yes, no question or WH question. So it's really like the simplest way to ask ICQs. Yeah, so one more time, we use ICQs to check the instruction, check the understanding of the difference between CCQs and ICQs. So we use CCQs to check the understanding of the material, yeah, the meaning of a grammar structure, functional language, or vocabulary item correctly. So the difference between ICQ and CCQ is that, yeah, and some tips for preparing CCQs, which you can also prepare in advance, yeah. And in the beginning, if you have never used CCQs, it's really a good idea to prepare them in advance to get used to creating CCQs. So ask yourself, what do my students need to know about the structure or item? And it's a good idea to give some context. Yeah, it can be a short story or a sentence example, a model sentence, and you may use and you may base your CCQs on this context. So, for example, you need to clarify the difference between mustn't and don't have to. So here are some examples, yeah? For example, I mustn't fight with my students. You may write it down on the board. Or I don't have to wear green socks to work every day. And here are some CCQs. How do they work? Again, it can be yes, no questions, or it can be WH questions, some open-ended questions. Here in my example, I have yes, no questions. Can I fight with my students? No. Is it a rule? Yes. Can I wear green socks to work if I want? Yes. If I don't want, can I not wear green socks? Yes. And in such way, you ask your students and you get and you elicit the information from them rather than just explaining. And as I said, CCQs can be asked not only for grammar, but also for functional language or vocabulary items. And it's very easy to create them for vocabulary items. For example, the word doctor. Yeah, does doctor work with people? Yes. Can you go to the doctor when you have a cold? Yes. Where does the doctor work? In the hospital, for example. Yeah. So once again, yeah, to make your students understand you, it's a very nice idea to use ICQs and CCQs. Then, I have already mentioned the word scaffolding, and let's have a look shortly. What is it? What is scaffolding? So, scaffolding is actually a way for teachers to provide support while students get new concepts or skills. Scaffolding, yeah, actually, we can say supporting. And at the beginning of this process, the teacher provides a lot of support. Then support is used less and less and is removed in the final stage. So here is a short picture for you, but I have mentioned a bit more information in a follow-up article, so you may read about scaffolding in the follow-up article. as we don't have much time. So what is scaffolding? So we actually start with modeling a task, providing some examples, providing some help. Then we guide our students with some controlled practice, for example, or with semi-controlled practice. And we gradually release this support, moving from semi-controlled practice or control to freer one and to independence, which is production, yeah, where the students can produce their own utterances, speech, their own ideas, yeah. So when we help at the very beginning and then release it, uh, remove our support and release it a bit later, yeah, that is called scaffolding, supporting. So, one more thing that we should mention, that while working with beginners, it is of like crucial importance to repeat and drill a lot. Repetition is the key. Like beginners, they even though they are teenagers, they still need to repeat a lot. And why drilling is important? Drilling is very important, even with teenagers, to improve their pronunciation. If we're talking about beginners, it's a must. To memorize language patterns faster, to increase their students' talking time, to raise their confidence, and to shift from I know to I use. When they repeat a lot, they start using it. So, what can we drill? What can we drill? We can drill some individual sounds if we are working with pronunciation at the very beginning, right? So we may drill some words and individual sounds in these words, for example, what or this schwa sound is really a thing that should be drilled. Then we can drill particular words if we are starting with vocabulary, if we are talking about vocabulary learning, phrases, and even sentences. Uh, it is important to drill the pronunciation, not only vocabulary items, yeah, that I have mentioned, but also you may drill functional language with your students and some grammar structures. Why to drill these structures? Yeah, to pay attention to stress and intonation. Stress on stress word, intonation, it is very important to set it at the core. Yeah. So in the follow-up article, I have mentioned different drilling techniques. So you may have a look at them later. Yeah. I have mentioned the different drilling techniques that you may use, including the usual drills, substitution drills, transformation drills. If you still didn't hear about such ways of drilling, repeating, then you'll see an example. And yeah, one more thing that we should mention is teaching students how to learn, teaching your students some independence. Yeah, so if we are talking about beginners, yeah, it doesn't mean that they should solely rely on teachers. We should teach our students how to work independently. And they are not young kids. They have already got some skills that they may use. Yeah, they have already studied in school and so on. So give your students tips on how to learn and remember the words. For example, using flashcards around their home or using some apps to learn the words. Yeah, for example, the app Quizlet, yeah, a fun and effective way to remember the words. Give your students the tip on how to check the meaning of the words. There are so many apps and dictionaries that help them to check the meaning of the words. Of course, we may use the Cambridge Dictionary, which gives an English meaning, but if your students need another meaning, you may teach to use bilingual dictionaries as well. How to use, also, it's important to teach our students to use different reading and listening techniques, how to work with text, how to work with audios. Yeah, what are some strategies to learn to listen and to read, how to see, how to work with listening or reading for gist or for specific information. So it is very important again. Um, Also, if we are talking about writing tasks, which are not that often, but still some simple writing forms, yeah, writing tasks, we still have them at the beginner level. So how to structure their writing, it is also very important. Taking notes, highlighting the most important information. It's a very good thing to teach to teenagers so they can be more independent. And as I have already mentioned, using some online resources independently, yeah, in using some games, watching videos with subtitles, yeah, it all will help them to be more independent and to learn faster. So basically, as I said, it's going to be the fast session, yeah, because 1 hour is very little to speak about everything that we can like talk about teenagers, beginners. But I believe I have mentioned the most important information, and that's why we still have 4 minutes, and I would like you to interact a bit the last scene, and I would like you to finish the sentence. You may choose one, or you may write three, and type in the chat in YouTube your thoughts. So, what are some new things that you found out, or what is a good advice that you will use, or what is the thing that you will use with your teenagers, beginners, when you teach them next time? So, please type some answers in the chat. I'll be waiting for them, and then it's going to be the last thing that we are going to do today. Okay. So still waiting for your ideas. Super, super. So I'll use drilling and ICQs and CCQs. Victoria, thank you. Again, CCQs and ICQs, you see, it's actually try it. So if you have never used it, try it at your lessons. It is very useful thing, and you will see that your lessons and your explanation becomes much easier while using ICQs and CCQs. Next time I teach beginners, I'll pay attention to their level and use mature materials. Thank you, Katerina. And found out lots of new info. And can't wait to use these techniques with your students. Angelina, thank you so much. Yeah, that is okay to use language one. Yeah, if needed, yes. But still, gradually, you should reduce it. And as we have discussed, there are some techniques that may help you to use it less. Yes. Good. Okay, next time you'll make a conclusion of the lesson. Use simpler vocabulary to explain your topic and use CCQs. Okay. Irочка is a beginner in teaching. Well, good luck to you. So I believe that our tips will be really useful for you. Great amount of new information. All right. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Returning to the lesson goals at the end of the lesson. Okay. So I can see no more new answers. Okay, so I guess we are going to finish. So thank you so much for working with me today. It was a pleasure to share my knowledge with you and to share some tips and tricks on how to work with teenager beginners. And we are waiting for you at the next webinars. So one more time, I want to remind you about having a certificate about completing this, watching this webinar. Yeah. So if you would like to have the certificate, you may contact TalkEn.Cloud and they will help you. Yeah. Don't forget to check the follow-up materials, check the article with follow-up materials. There will be more useful information for you. So thank you so much and see you at the webinars. Have a nice evening, everyone. And thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone. Oh my God.